Okay, thanks, guys. First of all, thank you for joining. I hope this time is of good use for everyone. I'll just introduce myself while I share my screen. So my name is Daniel. I am currently the CTO for Archaea, which is potentially a service that you are also familiar with. This is our main website, and as well, we're working with DLT Science in the sense that we provide mirror node and basically infrastructure as a service for the Adaro protocol. So we specialize in Adaro protocol. We've been around since last year. We're hitting pretty much a year, and in the meantime, we've partnered up with Google, and we've been just kind of coming in and supporting the protocol. And these are just some clients that we have, like Operator, Hashback, and so on. So without further ado, maybe I'll just show you a little bit about what I have for this event. So taking your hackathon to the next level. So what does that mean? It means maybe you have a great project. You just finished a really cool application, and perhaps some thoughts or some things that, at least as well from my experience and by working under, also Archaea is under the BCW umbrella, and how to get a startup OPA to that level where you can, maybe call it a more solidified product, maybe how to get funding and so on. So moving on to, I guess one section would be securing funding. So how to get people to hop on your dream, right? So let me go for a pitch deck strategy. So as you probably come to a point where you have a product, a pitch deck is kind of one of those bread and butter toolkits under your belt to kind of show what do you have, right? The elevator pitch, but in the form of a slide. One thing that I've always found is vision and value proposition first. So make sure that people in the audience try to understand what exactly are you trying to solve. People see a lot of these things every day, especially if you're going for a specific audience that specializes in these things. So it's better to actually go straight to the problem and why are you solving it and how are you solving it. Make them understand you've done market research. I cannot stress that enough. And there's a real demand for a problem and not just something you receive positive feedback from a few friends. Not the first time that this happens. Sometimes, you just have like this maybe clustered environment of a few friends, and then they say, oh, this is great. This is a great idea. I love it. Or maybe they use it, or they just kind of, try to be nice with you. And it's really good just to kind of see out there the competition. And if there is competition, it's not a bad thing. That means that it's already proven demand for that product. And if there's not, or if there is, just make sure you understand, like, what kind of ROI you can get, what kind of market exists, what kind of potential clients exist, right? So example, previous experience. I remember, for example, this we had this impact jacket. I am in Hong Kong, and there was a research for a jacket that would detect punches from a martial art at one point. It's very specific martial art. I remember we actually, this person, actually a friend of mine, just kind of got even a little bit of funding and got his friends all there just trying to get that impact jacket up to life. The problem is that there was such a niche market, and no one actually was interested in using it. And it was just a complete waste of time. But sometimes you're just passionate about something, just get into it. People are your friends, and then, so make sure you market research. Go out there, use Google, use everything that you need to kind of understand if this is something you want to put your time in. Other thing, keep it short. So yeah, people don't have a lot of attention. Attention span is lower. I'm pretty sure you guys also share the same thing, right? Like after social media and the amount of information we have. So you don't want to go too long. I've noticed by my personal experience after doing this a few times, 8 minutes at tops. It's probably the best time span. Leave space for QA, questions, drift to hear people's concerns, try to feel a little bit the audience. And, if a slide is just finding itself too boring, just go to the next one. I have this problem sometimes because I announce an infrastructure as a service. This is definitely not the sexiest product. It's a useful product, but not the sexiest. So, not always easy to keep people's attention. So yeah, if you feel like, make sure 8 minutes, if it's 5, if it's 3, even better. And then just try to capture the audience in some other ways. Another thing that sometimes it's hard when you start is your product is not special. Actually ideas, and even good ideas, come out more often than we might think, but execution, deployment, proven market growth rate. This is really what your audience is trying to understand if they're wise about investing in your product. And even if there are other competitions, maybe you're doing something a little bit different. Maybe you have an execution capability which is a little bit different. Maybe you have a different type of strategy, and that's also very relevant. Don't be phased out if there is competition, because they might not be doing it very well. And make sure your audience understands and that you don't have unrealistic expectations that your product is going to be out there and dazzle the market. The term of build and they will come does not exist. That is fake. You put a product out there and you don't have a specific plan to go after users or go try to have maybe a marketing plan, a strategy, a network plan to try to broadcast that. Unless it's a unicorn, 1 in a billion, that sometimes just kind of goes viral. Most of the stuff is just to get the market. It's a lot of hard work and persistence. So also ability to self-criticize. So if you do find yourself like from the beginning able to criticize what your product is good and what's not, and how do you need to work to make it better, the gaps, people really appreciate that, because they're also investing in you and your team and your ability to go forward, right? And because there's going to be a lot of bumps along the way. Also pitch deck, know your audience. Also, it takes a little bit of a time, but if you have a pitch deck, try to calibrate these pitch decks according to the people that you're going for. Sometimes you have angel investors, sometimes you have more foundations, other times it's more venture capitalists. For example, it can be time consuming, but for example, venture capitalists will look more for metrics, growth, forecasts, right? So they're just looking at numbers. It doesn't matter, you're already in a different stage, and they're just going to pin down all those details and make the hard questions. An early investor might be interested in vision, right? Your past experience, your personal values. Who are you? What is your ability to adapt and move forward, right? Because he's investing in a very small seed that can grow into something much bigger. Highlight your past experience. If you started something before and failed, that's a good thing. If you had a startup, if you worked in a startup, if you had a startup, if you went through that grind and understanding that, that it's that kind of like up at beginning, everything is great. You get dopamine hits and you're getting your product out and building, and everything is just, very exciting. And then there's that long road in the middle, which is not always easy. Sometimes you just realize in the middle that, well, this is not working, or you realize like, there's a lot of problems to solve. But if you've been through that, or you understand what do you need to push through that middle road before it really, your product really shines, that's really good. So feel free to highlight your past failures. Feel free to highlight that you put products out there and they failed miserably, because that means at least people will know that you will not do that. You will not go down that road again. And I think that's really key. Boring stuff, financials. Yeah, if asked, adding a forecast, expenses, burn rate, human cost, all that kind of stuff. If you have a great product and say like, okay, we want to kick this off, people need to know, well, if they're gonna fund it, if they're gonna do something, if they're gonna have a partnership, what is the plan? And what kind of team do you need? What structure do you need? What are your burn rates for the next year or two? When do you plan to become profitable? What's your revenue? And all those stuff is a little boring, even having a little bit of a longer business plan, but it shows that you are ready for those parts. Because actually having a startup, sometimes there's a lot of hats that you have to wear, and those boring parts, you probably will have to do it yourself for a while. But if you don't do it, then no one else is doing it. And sometimes if people perhaps, fund your idea, it's always, they probably want to know, like, are you a person you need a vision, but you also need to have your feet on the ground. Or if you're a person that's always out there, which sometimes is great, you need another partner that kind of keeps things on the ground and make sure like everything is still kind of kicking in. Okay, so that's kind of pitch deck strategy. I just went through like a few aspects that for me, I think made an impact on my personal journey and career. moving on to networking tips, very important because you have to work with people. Even if you're a tech nerd, I'm also a little bit more on the tech side, but you got to work with everyone. And how to connect and keep your connections. And that's going to be really important. So one thing that I notice great networking is after events. So sometimes you have these startup events and, it's always coordinated and it goes, it kind of has a structure. And then a lot of people I see, okay, thank you so much. And the people leave. Some people leave. If you're serious and you want to, get your foot through the door, don't leave. So sometimes, for example, going alone is a great way to kind of talk to other people. If you're in this group of 3 or 4 people, might just stay there. You're just kind of looking, and you're just getting a bit coy. So sometimes you can go alone and stay there, another hour, another 2 hours, and everyone at the end of the day wants to reach out. Networks just breaking the ice. Sometimes you have a drink, sometimes not, but I've always felt that when I stayed longer, even sometimes I just felt a bit tired or, finishes at 10 and then it's always worth it. You always meet someone, you always exchange a business card, an idea and making your network bigger is something that you need to continue to work more and more. And that has to be a very consistent curve up. Another thing I notice as well, sometimes not always easy to deal. Don't reach out to people just when you need them. Help them solve their problems. It's easy to forget. So it's easy to forget small things in the startup when there's so many hats to wear, right? So if you have a client and he's kind of reaching out for something or he has a little problem, sometimes just putting that attention, make sure you kind of write it down, being, in the backlog, being whatever you want to use, but going back and making sure you don't forget those clients, it's really important. So you can't just get them, you have to keep them. And so, make sure you also be aware that because customer acquisition is expensive when you have a startup, sometimes you might get 1, 2, 3 clients, and then and every step might be continuously harder for the first few clients. So make sure you keep them at the beginning, and be honest about your product. Like, problems you're facing, people appreciate transparency. If things are not working, sorry, like actually that part is not doing so well, we'll definitely going to work on it. We'll be back, we'll be fixed in a few weeks, sorry about that. And people understand. Don't try to sugarcoat it very much. I mean personally, that's my thought. Successful startups. So let's see in the other community as well, just from some examples. I think, for example, so just put a few things out there. Hashback, for example, it's in the Dara community, it is, a very famous wallet as well for Adara, and such a great product. You got Pangolin as well, which has been a decentralized exchange, and they also tapped into the Adara community, and they're doing quite well. We also work with them. DAppRadar. So DAppRadar is also another example of just another community and another product that just kind of tapped in. Hashport is the DeFi, it's a reference basically for DeFi bridging between Adara and the other crypto coins. So if you just shows they actually had a very big gap to fill, and now they're just a key part of the ecosystem. So it's also pretty cool to actually understand like how these people are solving different problems and why that made themselves more relevant. Also, a shout out as well to Blade Wallet as well, like really cool wallet. And also we actually started to work with them. So it's another example of like people just doing really cool stuff in the Adara system. So about Archaea, how was funding secured? This was a joint venture between BCW Ventures and THF. So it was through the Adara Foundation, which helped us a lot as well to get our product off the ground. Their understanding there was an unmet need in the ecosystem, right? So a commercial mirror node provider versus the public services that they had, it's just a matter of time till the volume grows and the ability to scale will not be met by just a standard public service. and I think one thing that was good is Archaea came in under BCW Ventures Technology, and they have already a proven record of ability to execute an idea from ground up, make a reality. They had the structure, they had the talent, they had the skills and the ability to push it through. So that was pretty important. So like I said, like that record before might be also important. So make sure you highlight the fact that you've done something similar and you can actually get this to reality. If you're not, at least you learn from it. And I think the other one is to show up. In this process of sometimes of funding, there's a lot of meetings. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. There's going to be a lot of questions, sometimes paperwork, and just show up for everything. Just make sure you're always there on time. Make sure you send the relevant documents. Make sure you do your homework, and things will happen. It just might not be as fast as you might think, and it might be a bit more painful, but it is part of the game. So, when people also obviously releasing these funds, they want to make sure, being a venture capitalist, being an angel investor, being a foundation, that these investments are going to good places. So they sometimes just need a little bit of time to understand that. I think that's it. I'm gonna give you a little demo just about Archaea and just how to use it, the dashboard and everything. But just to let you know why a private mirror node provider, we do offer at base free account, everything that the public node could potentially offer, versus also twice the results per REST API call. So you can actually get up to 200 results per our REST API calls, which it's not too bad. We also have developer tools, a complete suite of APIs. There's some free code samples, boilerplate. And just remember, you might have a great application that attracts thousands of users. And if you don't have the infrastructure at the critical times, it can let months of work go to waste. I have an example. I'm not going to say the name. There was a big launch. Things just started blowing up. And, in the middle of the night, there's just a wake-up call that, Archaea, by the way, guys, our guy's there. And, that was pretty early in our life stage, but it just goes to show, like, sometimes we just don't realize, like, we're tinkering away with a product we're putting up, we'll think about the marketing plan, the users, and all of a sudden we just realize, like, all that node infrastructure in the back. If you have just a public node, or you set up maybe a node for yourself, it might not hold up. And we just literally just focus on that. That's all our expertise. And we made it really easy to plug into our node, because it works exactly like if you were working with any public service. So dedicated bandwidth for you guys. So let me just show you a little bit about what I'm talking about. So although you guys probably are going to start interacting with it. All right, so sorry, just seeing one question. Yeah. Okay, so here you can always sign up if you want. You can have a free account, although I believe, so this hackathon will, because we're actually supporting it, you will have a dedicated paid account for you guys to what you need. You can create an account here. So when you do here, just go sign in. So because I'm basically already have my own account, I'm just going to log in. And from here, that's when some key parts happen, which is creating the API key. And that's when it just gives you access to our mirror node. That's simple as that. Just a little snapshot. So in the landing page, you usually just get your monthly usage, your API usage breakdown. So you can see, like, we actually have quite a few APIs: REST API, JSON RPC, which is very essential as well and very useful and really coming up. So we've been really early into it. GraphQL, which is kind of starting. We just have a very small mapping of this query. But we definitely want to continue to help and coordinate with the ecosystem to make GraphQL really a very complete API for Adera. And Watchtower, which I'll show you in a bit as well, it's basically a streaming API developed in-house in Archaea that uses WebSockets to integrate. So that I'm going to show you in a bit. And this is just account features. When you create a project, all you need to do is just create a project. And then, just the network we focus. If I did create it, will appear here, but since I already have a few, I don't really need it. So I'm just going to go here and manage. And what you can see is, besides some metadata, this is the API key that for now I will not show, but when you see it, actually, this is truly the the proper, actually I can show it because I can regenerate it, it's no problem. This is the API key that when you copy, you just need to add it in the header, and that will allow you to tap into infrastructure, into our infrastructure. So it's kind of like a, authenticated mechanism. These are our current services. Excuse me. So we have Hedera, testnet, and mainnet. So maybe of you guys at the beginning, you work with testnet. So here's the API for your REST API, GraphQL, JSON RPC. We also have the gRPC endpoint if you need to. And here's very easy. Like if you want to just see how things work, you can just come here and we'll give you to the documentation where we'll have a lot of code samples as well, straight off. This is the main part. You have statistics as well. So when you're using actually application, you will have a lot of metadata and granular detail about what you're using. So pretty cool. I think it's also, we break it down all the way to the API. So you can see how many requests you're having for the API, for example, for REST, JSON RPC, and you can see even up the method you're using, which I think it's quite nice. So you can see like you're making these requests to accounts, another one to contracts. So quite low key, quite low level. Scout has not becoming live yet, but Workbench is very useful. So this is also a developer tool and allows you to kind of manipulate and kind of navigate through our mirror node. So for example, selecting, let's say mainnet, you can get, maybe account NFTs, you send a request. And what happens is just gives you the payload straight off, right? So this is going to our mirror node, just using your project. And the cool thing about it is like, okay, let's say you want to get something, you can select here straight off an API, a code sample. So at the moment we have JavaScript, Go, Python, and Node.js. So for example, I quite like Node.js. So you can see like, you can just literally copy paste this into your application, you're ready to go. So if you wanted to get something else like balance blocks, contracts, this is not a replacement for obviously all the Swagger documentation, but it just kind of like helps you kind of get kickstarted, right? We also did get Watchtower here, which I think is pretty cool. So this is our in-house application, and it shows you as well just how would that work in terms of integration. So this is a WebSocket base you can use on client side, and at the moment we have 2 streams that are available. So if you do want to subscribe to topics, the Hedera Consensus Service, huge part of the technology of Hedera, super powerful. We kind of developed this tool as well to kind of allow us to subscribe more easily. And you can see here, this is all the payload that comes in. So you can see the topics, and there's just a few options you can get, but you can see it's very easy. You can just require the socket client. Watchtower URL just adds the API key, and this is the payload, and then you subscribe. That's it. You subscribe to that topic and you're ready to go. And also very cool is the account balance. So if you want to look for balance changes, both inside the account or even in the NFT itself, so anything within this balance on the account will just be an automatic push. So that's pretty useful. We've been having some interesting clients that are trying really to use a lot of the Watchtower capabilities. Last but not least, I guess, support and tickets. We do offer for paid clients Slack channel, ticket system, all that kind of stuff, and help you just kind of get anything you need. Very interesting and took a bit of work, but we do have auto scale, which is quite nice. So auto scale, it means like you go above your requests, no problem. We allow you to go above if you're having a great month. And because usually we have dedicated bandwidth, dedicated tier, but no problem. You enable auto scale, we just get an overusage for the requests that you do. Teams as well, another feature allows you to add people to your project. So if you're working on one project, you don't want to have like too much stuff. You guys have maybe 4 or 5, just invite everyone. Everyone will see the same project. You can use the same API key. There's even different types of role members, member and admin. So pretty okay, pretty useful. These are our tiers that we have available. So usually free, you can welcome to start an account. Then you get the starter, which gives you a little bit more of what maybe we want to specialize in. And usually we want to get people into basically our contact us growth and enterprise. I think that's kind of in a nutshell. These are just the details of our billing. I would like just to come here at the last part and to show you have a little promotion as well. So if you create an account with Archaea, auth archaea.io, sign up till today, 2 lucky contestants will receive 500 H-bars for free, which hopefully that's something that you find useful or interesting. I think just wanted to share some links before we go into QA or anything you guys may want to talk about. So other parts of our ecosystem, when you go to the dashboard, you do have a status.archaea, which is pulling all our APIs and making sure if everything is in good health. So you can always check it in here. We have our own GUI, kind of like HashScan for Adara, but basically this is a GUI into our own Miro node. So you can see everything in full time about any updates that's kind of happening around transactions, tokens, topics, and so on. Documentation. So we got comprehensive documentation. So please feel free to go and explore, especially maybe the tutorials, code samples. If you just want to see how to get some stuff done, this can be fairly useful, along with obviously the Adara documentation, which is also really, really good. And metrics.archaea. So if you want to see a little bit about what's happening in the Adara system, in the Adara ecosystem, we've been working a little bit on this type of small little widget page, which shows us the number of transactions that are happening, mainnet and testnet, the TPS, transactions per hour, and then we just kind of added as well accounts, so you can see how many accounts have not only exist, but they're being created. So for example, there's like some interesting spikes here. So feel free to check it out and just give us feedback if you want. So I think that's all from my side for today. And yeah, just like to open the floor for any questions or anything you guys might want to know.
Thanks, Daniel, for this session. So before we head into the Q&A section, I believe we have some questions in the chat section. So I'm gonna quickly read them out. So I think there's only one question in the chat section. So the candidate says, just to confirm, are we required to use Archaea in the hackathon? We are looking for the Oracle services, and would that be considered as an Oracle service? Would Archaea be considered as an Oracle service?
Got it. So first, for the first question, you're required to use Archaea in the hackathon? No. But one thing that we did notice about other hackathons that have existed, the public services can be a little foggy. So if you want to use something like, I would say, let's say if you're trying to index, or if you're trying to get a lot of data from the REST API or the JSON RPC relay, especially the JSON RPC relay, you will have from our account dedicated bandwidth, right? So imagine your own private lane for this hackathon. So it's going to respond a lot better. It's going to perform a lot better. And obviously other tools that we offer around the Adara, if you want to use it, that's all embedded there. So you definitely don't have to use it. But I think hopefully you will find that is very useful if you use this. Oracle services or Archaea because it's an Oracle service? No, actually, Archaea is not considered an Oracle service. We're just infrastructure as a service. Interesting enough, if you do want to check it out, Axiom, so BCW Ventures has been like exploring possible Oracle services. So if you do want to check that out, it's called Axiom. So and that's something that they've been working on.
All right, so the next question is UI mandatory for the hackathon? And is it mandatory to use Web3 in this?
So I imagine that question might not be for me.
All right, got it. So
I
think
believe so.
maybe you guys can drop the question in our discussion forum, and maybe we can quickly check that internally and get back to you guys. So coming over to the Q&A section, the first question says, when will mentors be assigned?
Right. So I see some UI is mandatory for hackathon. Like, as far as I know, like that's probably want to ask in the Discord, since I'm only kind of supporting with the Archaea service. I believe not, because it depends on what you're doing, right? So you probably are doing many different things. You can do a full backend application, I imagine. Is it mandatory to use Web3 tech in this? So I'm just going to go a little for opinions. I believe this is a Web3 hackathon, so about Adara. So, by definition, that probably be Web3. And I believe, okay, this last question, I believe it makes, I cannot possibly be the last source of truth, but MVP makes more sense, right? Like you're not trying to build like something that you're ready to ship and then sell, right? This is just something you're trying to achieve a concept, right? So
Thanks. And we have some more questions in the Q&A section. Can you see the Q&A section, Dan? Is it visible, or should I?
Q&A section. So I'm seeing the webinar chat.
Not the chat. There's a section called Q&A.
Okay, sorry, Q&A. Yeah. Okay. What is the special link for this hackathon? Is mentorship available? How can we get the ability to do more than one project? Okay, so one project, you mean a project in Archaea, an Archaea project, or that's hackathon project? That I do not know. But projects in Archaea, you can only create one unless you upgrade to a paid tier. But what's going to happen is they're going to give you the API key, and after that, and a URL, and that's it. And once you use those URLs and the API key, that's a dedicated account that we created for this hackathon that you guys can use. So that just gives you all that nice speed that you need for your infrastructure needs. How can we use AI with this? There's some interesting plugins with ChatGPT that's been coming out in Nadera. So maybe you want to check this out and see if that is that's something you want to use. If you want to, what is a special link? Okay, Teresa, in your platform. I guess that's all the things I see, but I'm happy to, is there any answers that I've left unanswered?
Yes, so a quick note to all the folks that if you have any more questions, do drop them in the Q&A right now so that Dan can answer. And if there's something that we need to check back and get back to you, feel free to drop them in the discussion forum or our Discord, and we're gonna get back to you eventually.
Yeah, so I always also will be in the Discord. So if you guys maybe in the general channel or something, if there is any problem, general hackathon as well, not only will have me, but another backend lead from Archaea. So if there's any problems with integration or you don't understand some parts, please feel free to reach out. But just a notion, Archaea is fundamentally an infrastructure as a service, very, very similar to maybe in the EVM world, Ethereum world, like Alchemy and Infura, but specialized in Nadera. And that's going to be your way to tap into the data that's coming in from Nadera, right? So all the transactions, so you're using the Hashgraph SDK potentially, right, to create tokens, to create NFTs. But once you want to check all that data, all that state, you need what it's called a mirror node, and Archaea is an infrastructure that wraps around a very high performant mirror node, and that's going to be what you're going to need to fulfill a lot of these use cases as you build your application. So use our endpoints and you can get a clean highway into all that data.
I think we have two more questions. Is a demo mandatory?
Is a demo mandatory? Well, like I said, I'm not the one involved in that, but I believe you probably want to do a demo. I think that also comes part of training yourself and putting into a very uncomfortable, maybe an uncomfortable situation, right? When we do a demo, we get a little bit nervous, you get a little bit, but that's going to be part of, possibly one of the skills you wanna develop as you go forward, right? Be able to articulate the problem, your product, what does it solve and what you're trying to do, and the presentation might be important. I do not know if this is mandatory though. Like I said, I'm only involved in providing some type of support for this hackathon.
All right. So I think this statement where the candidate says, "I need a suggestion. Can I ask?"
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
if I can answer.
If it's related to Archaea, sure, go ahead.
So also think about Archaea as like, something that's just wrapping around Adera's APIs and infrastructure. So you can get everything in one place with a little bit of sprinkles of other features and other functionalities around that just helps you to kind of get your development on rails, right? So It's just another tool that's gonna help you. But do bear in mind, it is about everything. Archaea focus more about the mirror node of Adara, right? So mirror node, think about it. But if you do wanna, but don't forget that you need to kind of navigate into the Hashgraph SDK if you want to actually aim to create NFTs, create transactions, create users. That's going to be something that will be part of that, will be into that. So we cannot help you so much with that part. I'm happy to reply any questions you might have about the SDK, but then it's all about when that data is when the consensus algorithm, the Hashgraph algorithm actually broadcasts that data into a network of nodes, the mirror nodes, you can access that through Archaea. That's basically one of the main use cases you're going to find helpful to fill with us.
And there's a question in the chat section. I'm gonna take it up myself. It says, should we record video while generating output? Yeah, absolutely. That helps a lot. So yeah, sure, go ahead.
With their Oracle, how can we integrate off-chain data? Okay.
Okay, now there's a long question that we have in the chat section. Mayank, can you just paste it in the Q&A section? That would be just easier for us, so that we can get all the questions in one tab.
I don't think, yeah, and I would say this is going about the Oracle service smart contract. Like probably like smart contracts in Adara are based in Solidity. So that's a very bulletproof type of language. And all you need to deploy to Adara, I probably would say like for an MVP, you probably don't want to leverage Oracle services unless you're building some kind of stuff like that. Just depends on what you're building, right? So I would say don't over engineer unless it's requested to, unless you're actually trying to build an Oracle service, and that's a complete different matter. Is there an example integrating off-chain data using a Adara service? Not that I know of, probably like some indexer or something. I mean, off-chain data coming through an Oracle, not that I know of at the moment. And this one, like I'm building an application, it's going Google Apple Store. At the Hackathon for scale, what DB should I use or which store should I use? Like I'm having some, so I ask one of them here. Well, depends on your application. Is it a Web3 application? Because if it's a Web3 application, there's no DB, right? It's actually a decentralized DB. So you only need a client-side application, maybe some backend middleware that takes care of some other types of operation. But in terms of DB, Web3 is the DB, right? So you deploy your logic with a smart contract, you create your accounts, you create your transactions, everything is just posted into the Hashgraph. You may need one if you do need some supportive DB, then you can use a cloud service. Just depends if you want to use a relational DB or a non-relational DB as a support to your application. So Web3 application can be decentralized, but maybe sometimes you can use and couple with a centralized database. There's a lot of cloud services that are quite easy, like MongoDB has a cloud service. Postgres also has some cloud services. So, it just goes for maybe because it's a POC, go for what it's free and go for like what can give you the best bang for your buck. Like if you get into a little pay tier or something. So for that part, I wouldn't have any recommendations. But I'm sure you can find something there outside. Just don't go maybe for your own kind of like local or like storage. You probably can offset a lot of problems if you just have a cloud service. So just like a connection string, you can link into it if you do have the needs to complement your Web3 application with some centralized data. Well, we have PPI opportunity. What is PPI?
So basically they're asking about job opportunities.
I see. Well, at least in Archaea, like there was not a specific discussion about it, but after the demos, if we see something really interesting and maybe that matches our needs, who knows, like, we're probably open to have someone coming in as an intern and just kind of hopefully maybe being part of the team. I don't see that as a problem. At least for Archaea, like just depends on, if your skills are compatible to the things that we need. Train AI to write their code because it's not going to be that simple. You can write code. AI can spit out code, but like when you're putting it together and all the pieces and what it needs and maintenance and upgrades, like, so, it's the same type of discussion that was happening a few years back. I know obviously it is quite it's quite powerful. It probably will become more powerful, but it's just, you continue to reinvent yourself, right? Like that's just part of being in technology. It's just a very fast changing world, and you always have to be a student, right? So just give me 1 second. I just need to put some battery in my computer. Just give me 20 seconds.
No worries, Daniel. So in the meantime, folks, if you have more questions, please drop them in the Q&A section. And when Daniel gets back, he's going to answer all questions related to Akaya. Yeah, I can see that there's a question related to the number of idea shortlists. So while I won't be able to share you the exact number, rest assured that a lot of ideas have been selected. So we got a lot of ideas during the registration, and some of them got shortlisted for the hackathon phase. And I'm happy to let you all know that actually, I would say over 70% of the ideas that were submitted were shortlisted. So there you go. Hey, Daniel, welcome back.
Hello. Yeah, sorry, just my battery went down more than I thought. Yeah, so the teams I don't know. Yeah, that part I do not know.
Yeah, I answered that myself. Like I just told them that, kind of 70% of the ideas that were submitted actually got shortlisted for the hackathon phase. So yeah, that just tells a lot about the quality of ideas that we received. Like most of them got selected. So I don't see any questions pertaining to Akaya in the meantime. So
yeah, you're probably going to have it when you start integrating your application. So yeah, I hope then at one point you guys share in the hackathon on the on DSF side the URL and the API key. The account has been set up, and then you guys just go to Docs Archaea or just navigate to Workbench if you create an account, and that will tell you very simple code snippets how to get data. So if you need to get NFT data, accounts, transactions, blocks, tokens, all of that kind of stuff, like that's going to be down to the mirror node, so you can do it through our mirror node. So probably at one point you're going to start like seeing where does that fit. So don't worry, I'll be taking an eye at the Discord just in case there's any specific question that I can help you guys with.
All right, so I don't see any new questions pertaining to Akaya, so I think maybe we're gonna allow 1 more minute for any last remaining questions to come in, and then we can call it a day for everyone. All right, so I think there's another question related to job opportunities. So yeah, like Dan said that, well, the main objective of the hackathon is not for hiring. If there are exceptional ideas, of course, Team Akaya would consider it.
No, I'm definitely down for like seeing if there is possible the final demos. And then definitely keep an eye on like people that, maybe the skill makes sense. And I'll be happy to consider an internship opportunity and then see if they want to share. So, we're very remote, very, remote friendly. So I'm sure like whatever you are, you can work from anywhere with us. Yeah, there's definitely that possibility. I don't see why not. And then we are under BCW Ventures, which is Web3 consulting. So that's also like, I can definitely reach out and see if we find people that are, match to our standards, work opportunities. I don't see why not.
So I don't see any more questions. So I think we can kind of call it a day. So Dan, if there's anything more that you want to share with the candidate before we close it off.
No, good luck. What I can say is like with hackathons or with my experience with just try to like okay, so this is me as talking as a developer. If I had to like now do this type of application, try to walk through the whole process, be very lean, and try to see if you can get an application. Like if you need something that needs a back end, a Web3 integration, a front end, and then something, try to do that paint that picture first, build that skeleton. And then because you're probably going to see problems that you might not think when you're too far in. So maybe you'll see a 1 point, oh, this doesn't work. So don't focus too much on like, you just need to solve a problem and just focus on that service for a long time. And then the other ones just kind of slip away and then realize like, actually, there's other things that you didn't think about. So do that, do a proper planning, sharp the blade, and try to do like a landscape or of how that would work. If you are comfortable with diagrams, it's amazing how much like just spending 40 minutes looking at a diagram with you guys and doing a few user flows and just understanding how things would work can help you a lot of headaches before you start writing code. So don't be super keen on start like typing code. It will help you a lot if you actually just put a couple of hours in just kind of laying out the skeleton of things, which service are going to communicate with, what's the problems that you see, what's the big frogs that you need to tackle now, because if you don't tackle, then the application will not work. So yeah, take your time to think. Don't get too busy in writing code, and then the rest will just fall in place. Are you active on Coding Help channel of DLT Discord? Let me see. Coding Help. Hello. Hi guys. Yeah. So good luck from Arkaya. Yeah, I'm here. It is a bit late already in Hong Kong, but I will be keeping an eye on things and just seeing if there's any thread that I can help. So all good.
I think there's one last question where they're asking, what's the main thing that you're going to be focusing on while selecting the finalists?
And that would not be for me, since I'm not going to be part of the panel.
So I think a lot of questions that have not been answered, you guys can definitely reach us out on Discord or the discussion forum, and we're going to answer it for you. So since we don't have any new questions, I think we can call it a day and give them back their 15 minutes. So
Yeah, man.
all the best, everyone, and you have about a week to go before before the project submission date ends. So the project submission date ends on August 13th or August 14th, depending on your time zone. So all the best, polish your project, and knock them dead. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Good luck and have fun. See you later. Bye-bye.